Today I want to share in divrei hayamim 1, which is the book of Chronicles, in chapter 28, number 9, it says, know the God of your father and serve him with all your heart with a longing soul. And I think about my father and think about the God he didn't seem to have. I need to get a pen, 1 second. Although I think I've seen a new feature. I can pause a video, but just in case, I've had issues in the past with trying to stitch together broken videos and all that. And thinking about how, how each one can find the connection with God without necessarily the Father. I read in the Tanya, chapter 42, written by the first Chabad Rebbe, the Rabbi shneur Zalman of Liadi, there's always a luminary aspect of Moses found in every Jew, a higher level of a spark bestowed upon the spiritual leaders in body and soul and the sages of each generation. This spark is an actual part of the flame versus the rays of illumination, which are not actually part of the flame. Such that a spark of the Moses soul found within the leaders and scholars throughout the generations, those who teach God's greatness to the Jews so that they wholeheartedly serve Hashem. So let's say you don't have a father, you have a father figure. You have like a leader figure, and also we have it deep inside. We could connect. Regarding like okay, so regarding like some recovery means ahead of like basically at what point do I actually connect with this internally rather than think that someone out there, like a codependency that results from not having a father figure and looking for that. Or so I went to a codependency meeting, an ACA recovery meeting. ACA is adult children of alcoholics or dysfunctional families. I find it very helpful for this kind of work. So in terms of validating that existence is a gift, even in pain, versus the disappearing. So when I'm showing up as I exist, that kind of existence is connecting me with my creator, my God. Sensitivity could seem like a curse, but actually it's a gift because that's how we could become saturated in joy and pleasure and good feelings and etc. Because emotion, for example, is a chance to touch or be touched by something that's flowing, a deep oceanic ocean. And also this idea that consequences and discipline, like, God, in terms of God being an authority, so listening and softening into rather than white knuckling it. Like white knuckle means you're pushing so hard that your knuckles turn white because you're holding on so tight. But that's with resistance. That takes away a lot of the undesired, not white knuckling, but actually softening into, even if let's say it's very hot and you just slow down and move slow rather than so hot. So it takes away a lot of the undesirable aspects of the hardships of being human and thus limited in power, agency, and control, is to soften into. That's a human power. Redemption is possible. I'm allowed to just exist and pass through the pinhole size as I'm enough into where all is enough, everyone and everything, all is the way it's supposed to be. So I like to sometimes imagine this like spark with all this flesh around, like as superfluous for a moment. I imagine the spark, and that spark could fit through anything, and all the rest of life could fall away. Whatever will meet me through the pinhole will be there. And also, the days of being a slave to fear and embarrassment have to be over, because that could be what my father was initiated. But as I am willing to feel fear and embarrassment, I don't have to avoid them at all costs. They can't control me. And that's when we start to have possibilities and potential for improvement, because I may not be found out as being unworthy. I may not need to prove my existence or the value of my existence. I may not need to have the other shoe drop, when I think something bad could happen. And in other words, stop living the way that my father taught me life works. And we have so then we have like the CODA meeting comments I wanted to share, which is about trusting myself, trusting a higher power, letting go of the results, how to hear my higher power. The fear and the embarrassment can take care, and the fear and embarrassment I mentioned, in order to take care of myself. For example, when I got locked out of my apartment once overnight, how I was able to take care of myself, and then care and missing all the thoughtfulness, presence, and validation, etc. when I'm in a chasing mode versus that self-worth of having earned it by being clean and honest about my desires. And the agency, which I find that the third step of the 12 steps, these are 12-step meetings, CODA and ACA, could be passive or active, like the trust itself. So in terms of, we talked about consequences a little, and being present. So the buried rage from the past, when we actually show up, buried means it was going to erupt sooner or later. I felt that when my desires or concern or love didn't get me what I wanted, I actually experienced it. I felt that they were being used against me. My passion felt pathologized, demonic, forbidden. And that was the question of, how can abuse feel like love? So why was I confusing love and abuse? Because of my father and God, if I was able to heal my relationship with God, I wouldn't feel that God's abusing me. So this is the idea that a starving person will eat anything. So make it like, forcing people the way my father did, or the way that I continued, like an object, is dehumanizing, taking away their humanity, their free choice. So I decided to take a week of space with someone. And this is the learning I was doing before the week of space. So on April 23rd, 2025, I wrote this. So this was end of April. So we'll say this is the end of August. So we'll include August in this. So we have May, June, July, August. So this is 4 months ago. This man, Aaron, and I, who I feel in some ways has been pivotal, even though he's been really challenging for me to learn about a lot of these things. So, and they do say you could do your own work up till a certain point, and then you do often need an other or someone to project on, not necessarily actually saying that the projections are true about them, but recognizing the projections that I'm filling the space. I'll even make a comment that I was noticing that there's somebody else in my life, Michael, I keep taking these breaks from, like I need 3 days, I need 5 days, because every time we show up together, I'm being interrupted or talked over, and it's a similar thing that's happening with Aaron. So I feel like that was happening with Aaron. I cut off Aaron because I felt I was turning into like a more angry, stressed person, and it didn't feel good for me. So in both situations, recognizing that sometimes letting go is also giving them, instead of expecting them to comply with what I'm forcing, giving them, in terms of my amends, giving them their humanity back, like letting them live their life. If I'm feeling like someone's treating me like a burden and it's hurting, and not because it's a burden, but it's like something they don't like and they have to put up with it, they could either learn that that's part of intimacy, there's parts we don't like, or they could run away from that and just avoid the whole package of the intimacy, because I'm a whole person, I have light and dark. So that's when we get our humanity back. So for example, when I'm projecting on somebody, whether it's the light or the dark, I'm idealizing them or villainizing them, I learn about myself, I learn about what I'm doing. So for example, when I take these breaks from Michael and I then come back together and I'm not liking what's happening each time, it's sort of learning, like, why would I need this person to change? He obviously doesn't want to. So where can I show up for myself? What are my needs? Anyway, so not just Aaron, but Michael also very useful to have a person sometimes who, not that we mistreat them, but that we look at what's coming up as an observer, witness for our own self, and even how we then show up, how we behave, how we respond. That's to be responsible, is to respond, not just to react. So Aaron and I, this is what I wrote. Aaron and I had a wonderful conversation. We left off on good terms to take a week off, and I realized we both get credit and blame, and that I used him to withdraw from Michael, and may it be revealed that we were both tenderly inoculated by one another with the bad outside world patterns, to be immune from it, like a doctor, healer, surgeon, mother, father, for one another. And we both signed up with love, and that I did deprive him of some of my sweet love and spicy love that was flavorful and he deserved, but that I let get sour and bitter in me, as if it'll be used against me, or I'll wear my heart on my sleeve too much and everyone will know if I'm a fool. And may it all be a blessing after the fact, but in hindsight I see I let myself spew so much and spit rage when I get angry by a bad spirit and wholeness. And who knows why he lost his hairs on his head and I grew hairs that I didn't want in the past, over here and over here, my mustache and my chin, my upper lip. And I'm becoming a queen from a princess. I don't know why I tried to make him a little boy and not be reflective or curious within myself about him. And also I got my period, so that's why my nervous system couldn't handle the pressure so much from him. Like when the uterus bulges 3 times, when he was raising his voice, repeating himself, and the night before. And if my husband's a great hunter-gatherer for the Torah, because he cannot fill up my soul with anything physical, though I tried filling my mind and stomach and heart and vagina with food and weed and alcohol and men, but it didn't work to hit the spot for what I really needed, then I don't need to do all the avoda, like the work, if I have a husband, doing that. So of looking for the Torah, so battling bravely for it, like a warrior, controlling impulses in order to focus so much. So Aaron says women shouldn't even learn Torah. So anyway, my husband would give me what's luscious and juicy and decadent, rich and fatty and crunchy, like the Torah's steak and the Torah's chocolate cake. I felt Aaron is handsome, but not so handsome that he doesn't have to make efforts to impress me. Like, may he and I both get all the waste and sickness out of our systems. The night we cuddled together, I felt was special. And the day I thought we'd never talk again, I felt the despair, such a bad feeling. This is in the past. A lot has happened since then. We've had many repetitions of these things. And to be honest, I think the cuddling was a big mistake to let him touch me. Even that I allowed myself to touch him at that time, because it was clouding our vision necessarily, where we couldn't see so clearly. May he see life as rosy, and may we each see life as rosy, and where we won't even need rose-colored glasses. I recognize that I'd used him the way I'd used nature, to be messy, chaotic, objectifying him as the earth, where I could rely on it and let myself go and be heavy, and sloppy. And then I got fat from trying to fill up the spiritual with the soul, with the physical. It seems maybe that as a woman, I just got mad at men because it's the time of the month where the egg dies and it feels mad that it didn't get fertilized by a man. And then we took a week of space, and a lot of patterns repeated itself. But I just wanted to share, like, on the journey, let's say this was, more relevant in the time. And I also want to add that it was withdrawing from Michael and also Natan. I mentioned earlier that I was using him to withdraw from someone else. Like, I pulled all the energy from someone else onto him. I wasn't building a new relationship with Aaron. I feel we were, but I wasn't only building with him a new relationship. I was kind of engaging in transference from other previous connections. And that's important to keep in mind. And that's all for today. Wish you all the best. Bye.